There's 26 brawlers right now. We've been getting a new brawler every single update so far, and I don't think Supercell has any plans to slow that down. So I'm gonna show you the best 8 ideas for new brawlers that I think could actually make it into the game. And I'm also gonna show you some ideas of community ideas that maybe did make it into the game. Let's see. Now, before we get into the new brawlers, I got a box from YouTube. So if you don't care what's in this box, just like skip forward 45 seconds. But let's see what's in this box. I think I know what's in it, but still, I haven't opened it yet. Okay, nice foam. Oh yeah, look at this. I got a nice little box here. Congratulations on your subscriber milestone. You've just done something that very few YouTube creators accomplish. You had an astounding 10,000 people subscribe to your channel. You guys can pause and read that if you want. I'm not gonna read that whole thing, but I got my silver play button. Oh crap, silver play button, woo! All thanks to you guys, so thank you so much. This is cool. Should I hang this up like behind my wall or something? Pretty sweet. All right, into the ideas for new brawlers. First thing, this one isn't gonna count as one of my ideas, but I wanna show you it because I feel like Carl was maybe based on this brawler idea. I mean, first of all, this is such a well done idea. Look at how well the artwork is in the description and everything, but look at the attack. Shoots out a rocket punch at mid-range that also does damage on the way back and curves around corners only upon return. That's exactly like Carl. This was 4 months ago before Carl was out. Now the super is kind of not that like original because it's honestly just the attack times 2, so it makes sense they did a completely different super. But I mean, look at this, and even the star power, it's kind of similar. Even it says reload time is reduced. All right, Carl doesn't have a reload time exactly. It's just he reloads automatically, but the attack gets reloaded faster in a way because you get it back sooner. So just wanted to show you this. So maybe this is some proof, just like Tara was another idea that was actually a fan idea. Maybe Carl was too. And hey, look, maybe some of these ideas really could make it into game. Idea number 1. Chosen, the pacifist monk. Chosen is a true pacifist at heart. This traveling monk on pilgrimage just can't seem to find a single moment of peace. Now, a lot of people think, not a lot of people maybe, but I know some people definitely think Brawl Stars sort of lacks some depth. I mean, when you have a game that has an auto aim button, that's going to be an easy thing to point at, right? Now, this brawler, I think, is none of that. It has a ton of depth. I mean, every single time you attack with this brawler, it actually does something different. Which, to be honest, if I were to give it a critique about this design, is maybe that is also the criticism, is it has too much depth in a way. Every single time you attack, it does something different. First time you attack, it deflects the attack back at the enemy. Yes, exactly like that. It has, the second time you attack, you slide backwards. And the third time, you push back the enemy. So every single time you attack, it does something different. Now, obviously, you can keep on attacking for more than 3 times. So maybe after that, it only does pushback. I do think, I mean, BB has a pushback effect. I do think it would be cool to have some more pushback effects in game. Not as annoying as BB's maybe, where you can do it as frequently as her. Maybe just something like part of a super. But anyways, the super is pretty interesting too. It's also an idea that a lot of people think of adding in the game, but it's sort of just an add-on. I'm not entirely sure if it fits with this type of brawler, but it does, you know, an area effect attack and then some walls pop up. A lot of people suggest brawlers that can pop up walls, which is one of the most interesting ideas, I think, and you could have a lot of strategy in depth by adding that sort of tactic. Of course, there's always a potential problem of like literally trapping someone who can't break walls, which is where maybe it doesn't actually fit in game, but the idea is really cool. Idea number 2, Lupo. Now this one is defined as a thrower, and well, look, Lupo, despite sharing a natural affinity for tribal magic, he's never understood his cousin's enthusiasm for fighting, which I assume has got to be Nita. I mean, obviously Lupo looks really like Nita. Of course, it's just kind of different colors. Now, one thing I really like about this brawler, the attack. Right, the attack is lightning. It's a lightning strike, and the star power allows for chaining lightning. Now, so this is where I think a lightning sort of brawler would be so sweet. In a brawler that has another chain attack, sort of like Jesse's, but maybe not as annoying. Maybe it's even more low damage, but you're also more likely to chain attacks. I think you can see a lot of different depth. I also think the super for this brawler is really cool. I don't know if I do it exactly the same way, but essentially, you use your super and you get a wolf mount for a certain amount of time, and you move faster and you deal extra damage with your attacks. And honestly, it's sort of like a passive buff, but it's only a limited time. I think this is really cool. Just adds some depth to the character. The interactions aren't always the same. You can play it different ways. If you have your super or not, it's going to change how you play that brawler. And of course, I really love that star power. Although maybe that could honestly be a really overpowered star power. It would be probably one of the better ones, because I imagine Lupo would be way better having that chain effect than not having it. Being able to hit multiple brawlers, of course, is always going to be a really good ability. But still, I do think this sort of brawler is really cool. Idea number 3, Candace. I actually think I might have talked about this brawler in a different video, but I can't really remember what video it was. So I just want to talk about it again because I actually really do like this idea. And I mean, we're getting sort of into the elements here. We got a fire-wielding brawler in this one, and I think fire would be another really cool thing to add. First off, the attack in this case, which I also think is great. It not only does it does, you know, a normal attack, range attack, and hits them, but because it's a fire attack, it also burns them. So I think it'd be great to have this sort of, it's like Crow, but imagine it's like a higher damage version of Crow. It has this sort of poison-ish effect, although in this case it's fire, where they can't heal. But probably with a brawler like this, since it does more damage and it has a similar effect, maybe it has a much slower reload. Crow is a really fast reload. Of course, he's also kind of a hard brawler to kill. This brawler might be not like Crow at all in that regard, even though it does have that poison effect. And the super, just sort of like what Barley's old super used to be, where Barley's old super used to be able to do a ton of damage. Maybe do it in this case where it's like Barley's, but you know, the high damage version and in a much smaller area, of course, but still something that can go over walls. It has that fireball, whatever sort of cool thing. Star power, I don't know about in this case. It's a definitely interesting idea, and I do like it. It's unique. Maybe there are better ideas. It is kind of cool though. Whenever you walk, occasionally you leave a puddle of fires, and I don't know how often that would be that useful, but it's definitely unique. So you got to give him props for that. Idea number 4, Lex or Alex. I'm not really sure. I'm sure this is a shout out to my buddy Lex, of course, right? But I think this is another brawler that adds more, that adds more depth to the game. There's no real stats on this one, but that's okay, because I think probably the majority of the stats and for all of these brawler ideas are probably not that balanced. But it's sort of a long-range damage dealer and healer, but it's sort of a different type of healer, I feel like, than the Pam and Poco we have. And there are some like small support things like Jean's heal, but there's not a lot of great healing besides Pam and Poco. Now for the main attack, it's called Resurrection Beam, which fires out a beam that doesn't do that much damage, but if it hits an ally, it heals them up, which is sort of like Poco's star power. So in that sense, I don't know if it would be overpowered or not, because that's honestly kind of just a star power. But anyways, super attack, it sends out a flying drone, which does a small amount of damage, but it's a limited time thing, so it only lasts, say, like 10 seconds, unlike, say, a Jessie turret. But what's cool about this sort of super, this turret-like thing, is it actually follows you. Nita's bear follows the enemy. What about a turret that follows you, so it can support you wherever you go? That's such a cool idea, I think, having something like that. And I don't feel like, maybe, I mean, I'm not a developer, so I don't know exactly how hard it would be, but it sounds like you should be able to do something like that somewhat easily, or at least that it's possible to do something like that. And then the star power is basically whenever that super that you use, whenever that little drone dies, it drops a little healing station. Maybe like a mini Pam station, honestly. That would be really cool. It would be all these different interactions that it would add to the game. Brawlers like this that add depth are definitely stuff that people would love to have. Idea number 5, Willy. All right, I think this is another, I mean, we're getting into a lot of elemental stuff, but honestly, it keeps it kind of unique. As long as you're getting in different elements each time, hey, why not? His attack, it's sort of like Piper's, but Redux. I don't think it's going to be long range, and it's probably much easier to hit enemies, and my assumption is it can hit multiple enemies as well. So it doesn't do as much damage, but it can hit multiple people. Think of it that way. Star power, it's honestly just like Carl's, so I kind of don't like it, because it's sort of, I don't like that sort of thing, because it makes free-to-play and non-free-to-play too different, I think, and you don't want to change the interactions on that sort of scale, right? You just want a depth in a different way, and I don't think that's the depth you want. So maybe a different star power, but the super, I think, makes this sort of interesting. Okay, look, it's like Frank's super, right? But it doesn't do any damage. So Frank's super has that 3-second stun, but his super also takes, 2 seconds to charge. You can get out of it. Now, maybe this is too strong, because I think a 3-second stun is a really strong ability. So maybe what you do to bounce this, it can't break walls. If this can't break walls, this probably is fairly balanced comparing it to Frank's, right? Frank's break walls, does damage, so you can hide from this by being behind a wall. But I think this would be a pretty cool thing. Another sort of long stun would be a great add to the game. And this is a brawler that is fairly low health, unlike Frank. So if you go really aggro trying to freeze everyone, let's say you freeze 2, but you miss 1 or something, you're still probably gonna die pretty quickly because he's really low health. But this could be an interesting brawler. Idea number 6, Theresa, a ghost's best friend. Now looking at the comments, Theresa is a young lass who's able to communicate with spirits. She's capable of commanding her ghostly companions to aid her in the fray. Using her scythe that also releases corrupted projectiles that can pierce enemies, she can summon a rushing ghost that not only damages opponents, but lowers their damage output by 30%. Now this sounds pretty interesting. Of course, I've always been big on any sort of spawner into the game. I do like I think spawners are some of the most fun brawlers to play. Nita, Jesse, those sort of brawlers I think are really fun to play. Looking at Theresa, it's kind of nice because it combines some interesting different aspects with damage reduction and that sort of spawner sort of thing. Now, I don't know how many ghosts it would spawn, but at least this is a pretty unique idea. Oh, another aside, look at this brawler concept, Rango. I know I said the first one that I talked about looked like the idea for Carl. This is another one that looks almost exactly like the idea for Carl. Throws a piercing boomerang in an arc pattern that comes back to him. His super, he throws a couple boomerangs that spin in a circle. Sound familiar? And his star power, his boomerangs travel faster. Sound familiar? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Idea number 7, O'Hare. We got a bunny rabbit for this one, which only makes sense. A lot of people have suggested a brawler that can dig underground. So a rabbit, that does kind of make sense. Rabbits dig underground, obviously. Now, it's kind of like the super would honestly just be like El Primo's, but reverse. You wouldn't actually see where the rabbit is going, which would be some nice stealth tactics. Whenever you super with O'Hare, you don't exactly know where it's going to end up. Or maybe it's sort of like Miner and Clash Royale where you see it digging through the ground sort of thing, and it kind of gives you a bit of a warning, maybe. Which could be fine, I think. And it sounds like it's a bit of a ranged brawler, though. I don't exactly know how this brawler would work as far as balancing wise, and it doesn't have a proposed star power, but it does have some nice artwork and it looks kind of cool. Idea number 8, Ailana. We got another elemental brawler here in this one. This one is a water brawler who sends out waves at her enemies, which, first of all, I just want to say this could be really cool because in this case, they have the waves being able to go over walls, which is great because it's honestly another way to counter throwers. But of course, there's not that many brawlers that can really counter throwers or have the ability to attack over walls or around walls. So this could be a certain way to do that. Maybe it's not a super fast moving attack, so you could potentially dodge it if it's at long range. But having an ability to go through walls or go over walls, I guess, sort of the same thing, honestly, in result, would be really cool. And the super, and I heard them talk about this in the comments, in the super, in the description, it says it would drag opponents towards you. A lot of people are saying, hey, it's a wave. It's probably push people away, which I honestly think is a better idea anyways. We already have brawlers that pull people towards you. What about a super that pushes them away? Not just like a knockback though. Maybe it's like a continuous gradual thing. Maybe it sends out, you know, a couple waves in a row, and for every one you get hit by, you get knocked back another tile and you take damage or something like that. I think that would be pretty sweet. I also do like the star power. It is fairly similar to Poco's because it heals people. But in this case, it's only with her super, so it heals for more, which makes sense because it would happen less often, and you would really never want to use a super on your teammate anyways. So maybe this isn't a great star power, but I did like the idea for the attack and super. If you like this, then definitely check out these ideas over here, a bunch of them, which would really help improve Brawl Stars. But that is going to be it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. I do hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you later.